Welcome to Present Poetry, a podcast where we sit back, relax, and enjoy some poets of the past and present. I'm your host, Erin Crittenden, and before we get started on this week's episode, I want to remind you that all of the material used in this podcast is either public domain or used with permission from the author or the author's estate. It's a fun time for all ages, so sit back, relax, and get ready to hear this week's featured poet. This week's featured poet is Francis Key. Francis Scott Key was born August 1st, 1779, in Maryland to an affluent family. He grew up on the family plantation in what is now Carroll County before leaving to go to school. He graduated from St. John's College in 1796 and read law under his uncle, Phillip Key. In 1802, Francis married Mary Lloyd and had 11 children, which they raised in Georgetown. In 1814, Francis and Colonel John Skinner dined aboard the HMS Tonnant, a British gunship, in hopes of pleading for the release of Dr. William Beans. Beans was captured in his home the previous month, and the British accused him of aiding the detention of British stragglers who were ransacking homes for food. Francis Key, Colonel Skinner, and Dr. Beans were allowed to leave upon a truce ship, but were unable to go ashore because they'd learned about the British plans to attack Baltimore. As a result, they could only watch as the British bombarded the American forces at Fort McHenry. The battle lasted for 25 hours, but on the dawn of September 14th, Francis saw a large American flag waving over the fort. That inspired him to write a poem about his experiences on the back of a letter. He finished it a few days later in a room at the Indian Queen Hotel, and his unsigned manuscript was printed as a broadside the next day. They gave his poem the title Defense of Fort McHenry, with the notation to the tune of Anacreon in Heaven. Later, it was published in newspapers, first in Baltimore and then across the nation, under its new title, The Star-Spangled Banner. It was somewhat difficult to sing, yet it became increasingly popular and was finally adopted as the American national anthem in 1931, more than a century after its initial publication. Aside from his unexpected literary fame, Francis Scott Key was a notable lawyer, a founding member and active leader of the American Colonization Society, and a devout Episcopalian. He is also the distant cousin of F. Scott Fitzgerald, whose full name is Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald. Francis Key died of lung inflammation, or pleurisy, on January 11, 1843. The Key Monument Association erected a memorial in his honor in 1898, and the remains of both Francis Scott Key and his wife were placed in a crypt at the base of it. We are reading from his only collection of poems, which was published in 1857. This poem is called Song. When the warrior returns from the battle afar, to the home and the country he nobly defended, O warm be the welcome to gladden his ear, and loud be the joy that his perils are ended. In the full tide of song let his fame roll along, to the feast-flowing board let us gratefully throng, where mixed with the olive the laurel shall wave, and form a bright wreath for the brows of the brave. Columbians, a band of your brothers behold, who claim the reward of your heart's warm emotion, when your cause, when your honor urged onward the bold, in vain frowned the desert, in vain raged the ocean. To a far distant shore, to the battle's wild roar, they rushed, your fair fame and your right to secure. Then mixed with the olive, the laurel shall wave, and form a bright wreath for the brows of the brave. In the conflict resistless, each toil they endured, till their foes fled dismayed from the war's desolation, and pale beamed the crescent, its splendor obscured by the light of the star-spangled flag of our nation. where each radiant star gleamed a meteor of war, and the turbaned heads bowed to its terrible glare. Now mixed with the olive, the laurel shall wave, and form a bright wreath for the brows of the brave. Our fathers, who stand on the summit of fame, shall exultingly hear of their sons the proud story, how their young bosoms glowed with the patriot flame, how they fought, how they fell, in the blaze of their glory, how triumphant they rode over the wandering flood, and stained the blue waters with infidel blood, how mixed with the olive the laurel did wave, and form a bright wreath for the brows of the brave. Then welcome the warrior, returned from afar, to the home and the country he nobly defended. Let the thanks due to valor now gladden his ear, and loud be the joy that his perils are ended. In the full tide of song let his fame roll along, to the feast-flowing board let us gratefully throng, where mixed with the olive the laurel shall wave, and form a bright wreath for the brows of the brave. This poem is called Another Riddle, made for our amusement one evening. There was a little maiden, and cross and proud was she, and I loved her very much, and she loved me. She determined to live single, and I begged and prayed her not, so at last she married me, and I pitied her hard lot. There was another maiden, who hated me, and I hated her. She loved her lover, always best when I was by. When he told his love to have me present, he took care, and she always answered kindly if I was there to hear. Oh, many a soft and tender thing was said by lip and eye that never had been thought of if I had not been nigh. And now, ye lovely maidens, with my presence and advice, you may always turn your lovers into husbands in a trice. When these love tales you hear and wish to make a kind reply, tell all to me, and when you meet, take care that I am by. Now I must tell you who I am, lest some mistake there be. I am the one that those soft scenes you wish should always see. This poem is called Creation. From the dark depth of nature's void arise unnumbered worlds and glitter in the skies. No bright materials the vast orbs demand, nor rule, nor compass, nor a forming hand. Self-poise their axes, self-sustain their poles, a universe of wonders over us rolls. They were not, and were called and were heard, and cost, scarcely cost, the effort of a word. This poem is called The Worm's Death Song. Oh, let me alone, I've a work to be done, that can brook not a moment's delay. While yet I breathe, I must spin and weave, and may rest not night nor day. Food and sleep I will never know, till my blessed work be done. Then my rest shall be sweet in the winding sheet that around me I have spun. I have been a base and groveling thing, and the dust of the earth my home. But now I know that the end of my woe and the day of my bliss is come. In the shroud I make, this creeping frame shall peacefully die away, but its death shall be new life to me in the midst of its perished clay. I shall wake, a glorious form of brightness and beauty to wear. I shall burst from the gloom of my opening tomb and breathe in the balmy air. I shall spread my new wings to the morning sun, on the summer's breath I'll live. I will bathe me where in the dewy air the flowers their sweetness give. I will not touch the dusty earth, I'll spring to the brightening sky, and free as the breeze wherever I please, on joyous wings I'll fly. And wherever I go, timid mortals may know that like me from the tomb they shall arise. To the dead shall be given, by signal from heaven, a new life, a new home in the skies. Then let them, like me, make ready their shrouds, nor shrink from the mortal strife. And like me they shall sing, as to heaven they spring, death is not the end of life. This poem is called The Defense of Fort McHenry, otherwise known as the Star-Spangled Banner. Oh, say, can you see, by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight over the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave? On that shore dimly seen through the mists of the deep, where the foe's haughty host in dread silence reposes, what is that which the breeze over the towering steep, as it fitfully blows, now conceals, now discloses? Now it catches the gleam of the morning's first beam, in full glory reflected, now shines in the stream. 'Tis the star-spangled banner, oh long may it wave, over the land of the free and the home of the brave. And where are the foes who so vauntingly swore that the havoc of war and the battle's confusion, a home and a country shall leave us no more? Their blood has washed out their foul footsteps' pollution. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave, and the star-spangled banner in triumph doth wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. Oh, thus be it ever, when freemen shall stand between their loved homes and the war's desolation, blessed with victory and peace. May the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must, when our cause it is just, and this be our motto, in God is our trust, and the star-spangled banner in triumph shall wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Present Poetry Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, feel free to like us, leave a review, or share us on social media. If you are a poet or you know someone who is, we would love to hear from you. You can reach out to us or submit your work through our website, which is www.present-poetry.com. Again, that is www.present-poetry.com. We can't wait to hear from you.